I didn't think that I would have a story to share on here so recently. For a little context, we have had a really bad issue with our neighbors. Not bad towards us, but they're dealers. They could do worse stuff, but I don't know. I only know about the drugs because the house owner's little sister who was in high school with me told me. She was removed from their custody and they actually got the SWAT team called on them last year. I have met the owner's girlfriend or wife. I'm not really sure what she is to him, but I know she had 2 young kids, probably 7 when I met them. I don't know what happened to them. Now that the context is set up, let's begin with the story. I was at home during the winter holiday break from college. My mom and I found out really late that the Netflix show Lucifer just aired its final season. We love the show and we watch it together. My dad was at work as he usually works from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m. My mom and I decided to binge the second half of the season this night. We were meant to watch like 2 episodes, but we all know that you never really stop at 2. Anyways, so we're up at 2 in the morning watching one of the last episodes. Throughout the night until this point, starting at I believe 8 p.m., we heard our neighbors yelling outside. I told my mom to ignore it because it's none of our business. It continued on and off for the rest of the night until around 1:30. When we hear them arguing on our porch. My mom and I just kind of look at each other because why would they bring their argument onto our porch? Like there's a fence between us. So that means that they had to purposely go around the fence to get to our porch. So they argue for another 30 minutes and then everything goes quiet. We figured they had left, only for someone to start kicking at our door and trying the handle. It was locked gladly, but my mom and I were on our feet. My mom tossed me her phone and told me to call 911, while she made sure that our side door was locked. We only have a front and a side door and an extra crappy thing. Only my mom's room has a lock on the door. So I call, telling the operator that somebody's trying to get in. My mom starts talking to the operator, explaining what's going on. Now I have a bad habit of not having my phone on me around my parents, and I'm a total bookworm. Have been since I was a kid. And phones usually distract me from reading or drawing as I'm an art student too. So I usually have it up in my room charging. So I ask my mom if I need to call my dad. She nods and now I need to go upstairs to get to my phone. I'm scared to turn on the lights, so I crawl upstairs in the dark to get my phone. I call my dad and try to look outside from my windows. I couldn't see anything, but I explained the situation to my dad. He's rightfully freaked out and says that he'll come home. My dad works 20 minutes away, so I was still scared. A lot can happen in 20 minutes. So I stupidly hang up in the panic and go downstairs to my mom's room. The person is now at the front door kicking more aggressively as my mom and I hide in her room. I call my dad again, telling him that I don't want to die and begging him to be on the phone with me. He agrees as we hear the banging come to a stop. The operator says that police will be over in a few minutes and my mom looks out the window. I yelled at her, explaining that if the person was trying to get in saw that, they would know that we were in here. As I'm explaining this, we get confirmation that the police are there. I tell my dad and the operator confirms that they found someone at our door and it was safe to come outside. And so my mom does. I peek my head outside and see the neighbor's girlfriend or wife talking to the police. She explained that she needed help and that's why she tried to break in. I'm not sure if I believe that. Why would she try both doorknobs? Regardless, the police ended up taking her down to the station, and my dad stayed home for the rest of that weekend. So if you really needed help, lady, I hope the police managed to help you out. Okay, so this just happened to me, and I'm sure that I will not be able to sleep. My boyfriend is not answering his phone, and I need to get this out. My company organized an event for the clients and the staff at a luxury hotel. Everyone partied, and I got into my room an hour ago. It's about 3:30 in the morning here. I don't know. 15 minutes ago, a guy entered my room with a bottle of water. It woke me up and I was really scared. He said someone had called from my room to order a bottle of sparkling water. A weird explanation. There is a minibar and there is a corridor in the room before entering where I'm in the bed. So basically, I'm half naked in my bed. He comes closer to me at the level of the table, apologizing for the inconvenience, but he's still here. And I kid you not, he starts talking to me, saying how he's going to be in trouble, etc., and how somebody called and he is so sorry, and the others got in the hotel super drunk and it must have been a mistake. I swear that he's been standing super close to my bed for about 5 minutes, and I was so shocked I was just saying, no, it's okay. I just got scared, really, no problem, just get out of here. Well, he doesn't see me very well and he asks my name 2 times. He says, well, so I guess I'll wish you a good night then. He kisses me on the cheek, like we French do, but once again, I'm half naked in my bed, dead scared, and he's in a suit all dressed. Literally, I don't even know what I could have done. He left after the longest minute saying how he was sorry, and how he would appreciate that I don't tell anyone. And now the phone in my room just rang. I don't know if I still should be scared. Was he just confused by the mistake? I am super scared though, and I can't think right now because my heart is still racing. I just need some rational feedback after this, really. Update. I'm okay. It's about 34 hours later. Update 2. 5 days later, and I don't even know what to say here. It was November of 2017, and this was a time of my life when I severely struggled with alcoholism and drug addiction, as many in the town that I lived do. So please judge my decisions knowing that. Me and my friend were skint most of the time but used to frequent a pub. Now this particular pub had a bad reputation but had recently been taken over by a new landlord who would begin to turn it around. It had an okay crowd, the usual for the type of the working area. The Imperial. On this particular evening, I had to come in at about 50 pounds in cash, so I called my mate and before long we were hitting the town. We started in this particular pub that we'll call the Imperial. I rocked up to the bar and ordered 2 drinks for me and my friend. As I did, I noticed a very scruffy looking woman dressed in disheveled clothing. Naturally, I ignored it and sat down. About an hour went by before my pal noticed the scruffy-looking middle-aged woman was lurking about 3 meters behind us, just staring at us. This gave us the fear and we decided to go out and smoke a cigarette. We headed outside, donned our hats and coats and smoked 2 cigarettes each, before returning to see the woman sat at our table. This wasn't a problem for us. We could just get to another table. But as we walked over, she stood up and returned to her original position, so we took our old table back. Upon sitting down, I see the woman begin to approach the table. She stands behind him and starts touching his shoulder. He turns around and asks, "What are you doing?" She swiftly replies in a very high-pitched voice, "Can I please sit here?" This was when I realized that my friend had completely misheard the question. He believed she had said, "Can I have a ciggy?" So he replied with, "Yeah, sure." She dropped herself down in the seat next to her. It was really awkward in this new-formed threesome. What made it worse is that she just maintained the same overbearing smile, not moving at all. It was with all this that I presumed she may be mentally challenged. My cousins have a similar issue, so I decided to be nice and involved her for a little while. After all, she seemed harmless. This was a mistake. After trying to involve her in the conversation with no luck, I signaled to my friend to go for a cigarette, and she stayed at the table. Outside, me and my friend talked about how awkward it was, and how we wanted to leave and decided to leave the back way without her seeing us. It was at this moment that I realized I had left my phone at the table. I walked over to the table, and as she saw me coming back, she grabbed my phone. Playing dumb, I said, "Hey, thanks for your company tonight, but I have to go. You haven't seen my phone, have you?" After saying this, her face changed and the mood took a dark turn. I could feel something was brewing, although her face was still ecstatically smiling. "Why are you leaving? There's no reason to," she said while making the creepiest eye contact I had seen in my entire life. "You can have it for a kiss," she said as she held up my phone. I thought fast and snatched it out of her hand before storming off fast out the door and meeting my friend outside. I was shook and told him to walk fast. Road to the Brunswick. The road outside the Imperial is long and straight, and you can basically see it from one end to the other. While we're walking fast for a while before slowing down and then stopping to light a cigarette. While we're stopped, we notice the silhouette of what appeared to be this woman coming towards us at a quick pace. Frightened, we took a corner and took the back streets and alleys, turning at every opportunity that we could. There was no chance she could have followed us, and we even waited to see if she was still coming. After 10 minutes, we started walking to a smaller pub called the Brunswick. We walked and talked about the strangeness of her, but we really forgot about it pretty fast. Upon arriving there, we scanned the room for her just in case and headed to the bar area. Got more drinks and we stayed at the bar. An hour passed and we were both quite drunk, so we decided to leave. This, and I cannot stress this enough, was a huge mistake. We walked outside and around the corner when, perhaps by coincidence, we bumped into her again. She began screaming things about how I should love her and how she had done so much for me. Completely taken by surprise and shock, I watched her run towards me. My friend ran back and watched in horror as she grabbed me and began licking and spitting on my face while she bear hugged me. I managed to slip out of her grip and sprint off onto the main road. Needless to say, I got very drunk that night. I lived in a border town growing up. Mexico was pretty safe at the time, and high school kids going across the border was no big deal, as our parents did it as well. It was the summer before I went off to college, and I worked as a cocktail waitress at a nice club, catering to the white residents of the city, as well as people in the Air Force Base. I was becoming friends with another waitress who was a tall, blonde, blue-eyed girl, well off and whose parents left her by herself at their house by the lake. I was poor and Hispanic, but she was always nice to me. The club closed at 2 a.m., and if we wanted to have fun ourselves, we would have to go to Mexico because of the time our friends' parties were done. This girl had been dating a rich Mexican guy. She was 18 and he was about 20. He was considered a papi, a richer man. After one of our shifts, my friend asked if we wanted to go with her and her boyfriend to a party in Mexico. I agreed and we were picked up in a beautiful black car by his driver, and he had a couple of other friends with him, all well off and good looking. They took us to a club that knew them. As soon as we walked in, the waiters brought multiple bottles of good quality liquor mixers and garnishes. I had a blast and her friends were kind and respectful. I drank a little bit but not much. We were only there for about an hour when the bars started to close, and the guys suggested that we go to Boys Town. For those who don't know about the US-Mexico border, there is usually a red light district with all the bad stuff you can imagine. But I agreed to go because I felt safe with my current group. Everyone with me was well known in the community and I liked the adventure. I am a bit of a risk taker, and any trouble we would probably be in from cops, we would just give the crooked cops some cash and be on our way. When we take this fancy car through a dark dirt road outside of a small city until we see the flashing lights of Boys Town. It was like a movie set. We go to one of the bars and enjoy the show. It's a mix of drunk college boys, Mexican cowboys, and a desperate woman looking for their mark. I was surprised. There really is a donkey show, but it's not what you think. The whole night was my friend's boyfriend and his friends had treated us to drinks. I was getting drunk and I needed to use the bathroom. I walked down a red-lit hallway and encountered one of the workers, with only a see-through scarf around her hips. She smiled at me and curled her finger to beckon me to a small room. Being the curious girl that I am, I was tempted. She was beautiful with wavy black hair. I smiled and started walking towards her, but I suddenly felt strange, surrounded. I guess is the feeling. I stopped and started to feel very uneasy. She continued to try to lure me into one of these small side rooms, but I shook my head and returned to the table with my friends, where another drink was waiting for me. I took a couple of the sips and just felt uncomfortable. I told my friend that I didn't feel so well and asked them to stop buying me more drinks. "This is the scary part," she says. "We haven't been buying your last few drinks." Like nothing, what the heck? I quickly turned to the bar and noticed that several men are looking my way. Someone I didn't know was sending me drinks. I told the group that I had to go and that if we didn't leave, I would make a scene. We left, I headed home and didn't speak. I felt super weird and amped. I hadn't felt like this before or after. I was off and feeling out of control. I got home at about 6 a.m. My mother was waking up and was wondering what I had done. I told her that I had hung out with my friend, her boyfriend, and their friends, and I proceeded to stay wired up for hours, trying to act normal. Now maybe I'm being paranoid, but I think someone was trying to hurt me or trick me. I was a pretty girl who was poor. If I disappeared, so what? Was the worker trying to get my money, or was she luring me into a trap? Who was buying me drinks that ended in me feeling out of control? For the person or persons who may have had a plan for me that night, how could you? This happened to me in 2010. I was a college student at a school in a big city which unfortunately wasn't in the best part of town. At the time, I was living in an off-campus apartment that didn't have dedicated parking spots, so I always tried to park my car alongside either side of the building under a streetlight. However, on this particular day, I was only able to get a spot on the street behind the building. Around midnight, I left my apartment to drive to my then boyfriend's house in another part of the city. He was a musician and was just getting home from a gig, hence the late night meetup. I hated being outside in the city alone at night, but I hadn't seen my boyfriend in a while and thought that I could quickly make it to my car without any issue. To get from my apartment to my car, I had to walk out the front door of my building, turn the corner and walk alongside the building, which was the length of and width of a city block, and turn down the back street where my car was parked at. All in all, this should have taken no more than a couple of minutes. As I turn the corner to walk alongside my apartment building, I see a man walking directly towards me. He immediately starts calling out to me and saying, "Hey, hey," but he's far enough up the street that I think I can make it to my car before he got to me. I quicken my pace and so does he. He keeps calling out to me and saying, "Hey, can you help me? I'm homeless and need to get home." Obviously that made no sense, and the closer he got, the more I could tell that he was drunk, on drugs, or both. He kept getting closer and closer, all the while calling out and asking for money. When I suddenly realized that I couldn't make it to my car before he would make it to me. So I stopped dead in my tracks underneath the streetlight on the side of the building. I always walked with my keys in my hand, so I would never be stuck digging around for them at an inopportune time, much like this one. And thanks to my mom making sure that I was always safe in the city, my keys were complete with a keychain of mace. By this time, the guy was only a foot away from me, aggressively asking for money and telling me that he needed to get home. I told him that I didn't have any money and that I couldn't help him. He moved closer until he was only inches away from me, so I picked up my mace in that moment. The streetlight shone on it perfectly, so this creep saw it and he backed away. To this day, I swear that I had a guardian angel watching over me. This guy could have grabbed me, snatched my purse, or gotten violent, yet the mere sight of my mace was thankfully enough to spook him. He quickly walked past me down the street and sprinted to my car and sped away, completely shaking. Needless to say, I never walked to my car alone at night ever again.